by Pete.
Are you okay with tightening it? Okay, welcome to the National Japanese American Historical Society. Programming around some of the posters. And
one of the exhibits that we have right now is called Jam Workshop, iconic posters of Asian America, 1977 to 2000. And as you can see, it's a beautiful exhibit of 43 posters of poster art, representational poster art that Jam Workshop did from 1977 to 2000. And Jam Workshop was a community-based Asian American arts organization which was located first and during most of its time period on Sutter Street before the building of the JCCNC where it was later on. And we produced many posters for different organizations and events in Japanese and Asian American community. And it was really a vibrant place where many young people came together and did a lot of talking and making art and working with the community, and involved not only young Sansei artists but also older Issei artists like Mitsu Yashima, who was an Issei from Japan. And this is a representation, like I said, poster art display which will be up until May 31st. So please tell all your friends about it, have them come in. I'd also like to introduce someone in the audience here who is an original member of Jam Workshop. This is Richard Tokeshi. Some of his artwork is in this exhibit. And I would like to point out that as many of the exhibits, the issues that we talked about was the Chol Soo Lee case. And you're here to hear about the case of Chol Soo Lee and to meet Chol Soo. Two posters here were made by Wes Senzaki, one of the Jam Workshop artists. This one right here in the center, and this one right over here. Two posters for Chol Soo Lee's defense, which were created by Wes Senzaki, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but is a beloved member of Jam Workshop. And so that's one of the things that Jam Workshop involved themselves with, issues in the community, the Asian American community. And with that, I'll turn it over to Grant Din, who was on the defense committee for Chol Soo Lee, and he'll introduce the rest of the panelists and Chol Soo.
Roz insisted I use this microphone, but it makes it easier. Thanks a lot, Pete. What he didn't say is that I am better known as Mr. Rosalind Tonai. I'm Rosalind's husband, so she asked me to work on this. We're really happy to have people here who were involved in Chol Soo's case from the very early stages. Mr. Hong and Tom Sur are in the back. Maybe you could wave. And they were very involved in getting the Korean community active on the case. Richard will talk later about how the Chol Soo Lee case was one of the first Pan-Asian movements in the country, and it was really amazing that so many people came out in support of Chol Soo. I have put on all the chairs a chronology of the case and commentary by Ranko Yamada shortly after Chol Soo's acquittal on the case. Oh, Gail Long's here. She was also very involved in the case. I think we're going to start in a couple minutes with a video. How many of you were born after 1982? So few. Okay, that's good. I'm glad you came. This is like old history, you know? But Chol Soo's case was a rallying point for Asian American activists in the late 70s and early 80s. We were spurred to action by the amazing journalistic work of K.W. Lee, who you'll hear from shortly. And he exposed an Alice in Chinatown story of suspect police work, cross-cultural misidentifications, and a lot of other things that resulted in an innocent man going to prison. But from this, an amazing national coalition of student activists, Korean church members, business persons, and just regular folks from around the country rallied, raised funds, and turned out at events in an amazing effort. Ranko Yamada was the one who first told me about the case. She had to go to a wedding today, but she was the one who was the heart and soul of at least the Bay Area Committee. And for the people who just raised their hands as having been born after 1982, believe it or not, there was a time when there was no internet. There are no personal computers, and there's no social media. So somehow through that, people managed to organize using telephones, the US mail, and just word of mouth. So through that, we were able to pack the courtroom for Chol Soo's retrial in 1982. And it's just amazing to recall that time, to see the people who would turn out. The Halmoni, pronouncing it correctly, the Korean grandmothers sat in the front rows on the left side of the courtroom, and everyone else filled the seats. But pretty much every day in court, there were people in every seat in that courtroom in support of Chol Soo. We had rallies on the steps of the Hall of Justice, and I'll always remember going up to the 5th floor to visit Chol Soo and finding maybe 10 or so of these Korean grandmothers smiling at Chol Soo. They didn't speak much English, and you pretty much lost a lot of your Korean by then, right? So they were just kind of smiling at each other, you know, and it was just an amazing sight to see. And we're sure that their presence and everyone's presence in court helped the jury reach the correct decision. And later on, the jury foreman in the first case, Scott Johnson, actually joined our committee to finally get Chol Soo out of prison. But among those who worked on the case, well, Chol Soo's case had a tremendous impact on a generation of young people and people of all ages. Hey, there's Wilfred Lim. Wilfred was also involved in the committee. And among those who worked on the case are the current lead public defender for the city and county of San Francisco, Jeff Adachi, the executive director of Asian American Pacific Islanders and Philanthropy, Peggy Saika, public defender Mike Suzuki in LA, and a lot of people. Dave Kakashiba heads up the East Bay Asian Youth Center, and he's going to try to come. He had a lot of things going on as well. But it was really inspiring to see Chol Soo's case spark a whole movement. He would always write to us from prison, and his letters were amazingly, to me, filled with optimism and hope because of all the committee members who were in support of him. So we're really happy to have him here today. So on my left, direct left, is Chol Soo Lee. Next to him is K.W. Lee.
No, I'm the last.
He was not going to speak after Chol Soo. He's going to be last. Okay.
These are organized people, so
K.W. brought a collection of some of the 160 articles he wrote on Chol Soo's case, exposing police misconduct and a lot of other things that resulted in so many people getting organized. This is really investigative journalism at its best. And in the handouts, you see some of all our speakers' accomplishments in the handout. But KW is known as the godfather of Asian American journalism. He's received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Asian American Journalists Association and many other groups. And then on his left is Richard Kim. He's an associate professor at UC Davis, and he's also working with Chol Soo to finish up a book about Chol Soo's experiences. And we have a hope for date of completion?
Hopefully by the end of this year.
Great, that's exciting. So this is some of Chol Soo's longhand recollections that I have to give back to you about the case. But we're going to start off with a really short, it's a 7-minute excerpt from a video about Chol Soo Lee's case that aired in, I believe, 1983 in Sacramento, done by a filmmaker named Sandra Jin, known at the time as Sandra Jin Yep. And it kind of gives you a sense of what the whole case is all about, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it after that.